It's 7 p.m. Tuesday, October 29th, here in Seoul.
And these are the top stories at this hour. North Korea rejects South Korea's proposal to hold working-level meetings on a long-suspended tour program on the North's Mount Geumgang. Pyongyang instead repeats its request to discuss the removal of South Korean property there through written exchanges.
The number of non-regular workers in South Korea rises to its highest level in 12 years. The government, however, says the, quote, counting method is to blame.
Is tada legal or not? The controversy continues a day after the executives of the ride-sharing service tada were indicted for operating without a license. We have the latest.
And K-pop boy band BTS takes center stage tonight in Seoul, bringing the curtain down on a hugely successful world tour. It's estimated to have an economic effect for South Korea worth more than $4 billion. NEWSCENTER begins now. Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Arirang.
And I'm Han-daeun. Thanks for joining us. Our top story this evening, North Korea has rejected South Korea's proposal to hold working-level talks on the long-stalled Mount Geumgang tours. This comes a day after Seoul suggested discussing the tour program as a whole, hinting at a possible resumption of the tours. But Pyongyang limited the talking points to removing South Korean facilities from the site.
The North also reiterated that both sides communicate only through written exchanges. Arirang's Unification Ministry correspondent Oh Jung-hee starts us off.
North Korea has rejected South Korea's proposal to hold face-to-face working-level talks over the Mount Geumgang tours. On Tuesday, Seoul's Unification Ministry and the South Korean firm Hyundai Asan, the main operator of the tours, received a reply from Pyongyang through the Inter-Korean Liaison Office.
The North said there's no need to hold separate working-level talks on removing South Korean facilities and claimed that details can be agreed through written exchanges.
Last Friday, Pyongyang notified Seoul that its authorities should come to the Mount Geumgang area and tear down the South Korean facilities. The North said the dates and other details can be set through written exchanges. But South Korea was firm that a face-to-face meeting is crucial, as the tourist resort and the tours hold historical significance as a symbol of inter-Korean cooperation. On Monday, Seoul suggested holding working-level talks to discuss the tours as a whole, expanding the talking points from removing South Korean facilities to possibly reoperating the tours. But the North came back with an outright no, rejecting any discussion of the tours as well. Seoul still sees it's necessary to meet and talk face-to-face.
All issues related to inter-Korean relations should be solved through dialogue and consultations. Seoul will discuss the issue closely with the tour operator and come up with a response.
When asked about the possibility of North Korea unilaterally destroying South Korean buildings at the resort, should the two sides fail to reach an agreement, an unnamed Unification Ministry official said it's difficult to judge. Seoul says it'll be discussing the issue with Hyundai Asan and decide whether to send a reply to the North. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
The number of non-regular workers here in South Korea soared to its highest in more than a decade, while the number of regular workers plunged in August. The government cited a change in counting methods as one of the main reasons behind the spike, but many are raising doubts about the quality of jobs. Yoon Jung-min has the details.
The number of non-regular workers in South Korea is at its highest in 12 years, while the number of regular workers has sharply decreased, adding to concerns about the quality of jobs. According to the statistics agency on Tuesday, the number of non-regular employees reached nearly 7.5 million in August, up 13% on-year. That's the highest figure since March 2007. The number of regular employees was down 350,000 to some 13 million. Responding to the criticism that the government has made the already unstable labor market more fragile, the statistics agency attributed the results to a change in the way they classify and count jobs. They said they have changed how they classify fixed-term contracts, and as a result, up to 500,000 workers employed under fixed-term contracts are now counted by the statistics agency as non-regular workers. Those include fixed-term workers whose employment terms aren't decided but can end anytime. The Finance Ministry also said the hike in the number of non-regular jobs was because of the increase in new jobs through the government's job creation policies. Skeptics, however, said the policies have actually churned out short-term jobs mainly for the elderly. When it comes to salary, non-regular workers earned some $1.4 thousand a month on average from June to August, compared to $2.7 thousand for regular workers. By age, those in their 60s or above were the dominant age group in the temporary job market, followed by people in their 50s and 20s. By gender, women took 55% of the temporary job market, and men accounted for 45%. Most of them worked in the health and service sector or in facility management. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Following the lead of Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun, efforts to break the ice between South Korea and Japan are ongoing. This time, South Korean lawmakers are leaving for Tokyo later this week to seek for a breakthrough with their Japanese counterparts. Kim Mo-kyun has this report.
To try and ease the tensions, a group of 50 South Korean lawmakers will head to Japan on Friday. In Tokyo, they'll be attending an annual joint conference of the South Korea-Japan Parliamentarians Union, a group that promotes friendly ties between the two countries. Under discussion will be a wide range of issues, including the end of the two countries' military intel sharing pact and their decision to revoke the other's trusted trading partner status. In a related move, South Korea's National Assembly Speaker Moon Hee-sang will also visit Japan on November 4th to attend a meeting of parliamentary speakers from the G20 countries. He was invited by the Japanese House of Councilors President Akiko Santo, who said he wants to hear Moon's thoughts about how to repair the strained relationship between Seoul and Tokyo. But according to NHK, it's still undecided whether Santo will meet Moon one-on-one, though he will do so with the other leaders. It's also far from clear whether there'll be progress in either of these meetings, Japan holding firm to its view that issues of compensation for the Korean victims of Japan's colonial rule were all settled by a 1965 treaty. Its chief cabinet secretary Yoshihide Suga said again Tuesday that the treaty is the foundation of bilateral relations. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
A Chinese military aircraft had entered Korea's airspace this morning, prompting the dispatching of South Korean fighter jets. But in a rare move, China had notified South Korea of its intrusion before entering Korea's air defense identification zone. Kim Ji-yeon tells us why.
A Chinese military plane had entered South Korea's air defense identification zone twice on Tuesday, but unlike previous instances, the aircraft this time notified the South Korean military before entering KADIZ. A Joint Chiefs of Staff official said the Y-9 reconnaissance Chinese aircraft flew near waters of the southern island of Jeju and stayed in KADIZ for about 77 minutes in total. Upon detecting the aircraft approaching KADIZ, the South Korean military scrambled multiple fighter jets and identified it. The South Korean military followed up and tried to communicate with Beijing through the two countries' military hotline. The Chinese responded, informing of its flight information, route, and purposes. It's believed the Chinese military aircraft have entered KADIZ more than 24 times this year alone. But Tuesday's intrusion marks the first time China shared such flight information ahead of KADIZ entry. This comes at a time when the two sides have stepped up efforts to mend defense ties after relations had soured when Seoul decided to deploy the U.S. missile defense system known as THAAD in the country. Seoul and Beijing agreed to work towards setting up more military hotlines during their vice ministerial level strategic dialogue, which was held last week for the first time in 5 years. An official from South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff said 28 countries have designated air defense identification zones for the early detection of foreign aircraft entering into territorial airspace. The zones are not bound by international law nor regulated by any international body. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Back in the 70s, South Korea's economy got a big boost from a rural development project called the Saemaeul Movement. Now, President Jaein hopes to use it for peace and prosperity in the international community.
새마을 운동의 전파로 우리는 경제 발전의 경험을 개발도상국과 공유하면서 잘 살 수 있다는 자신감을 갖도록 돕고 있습니다. 앞으로도 국제사회의 책임 있는 중견국가로서 지구촌이 함께 잘 살 수 있도록 계속 지원해 나갈 것입니다.
Moon was speaking at an event in Suwon earlier today, attended by Seoul movement leaders. He said Korea and ASEAN will discuss related cooperation during their special summit next month to help member states advance their economies. He also thanked the leaders, saying their commitment in times of crisis will never be forgotten. He especially pointed to their efforts to collect gold to overcome the 1997 financial crisis. South Korea's main opposition, Liberty Korea Party, has slammed the government's policies on the economy, diplomacy and reform, claiming the country has lost 2.5 years under the Moon administration. In a policy speech in Parliament today, the LKP's floor leader, Na Kyung-won, brought up the slowdown in economic growth, which she said is about to fall below 2%. She once again criticised the government's income-led growth policy, as well as the falling employment rate and the widening income gap. Na also hit out at the government's policies on North Korea, claiming Pyongyang's nuclear and missile capabilities have advanced even more, and that it has been testing missiles to threaten Seoul. She stressed that it's time to rebuild ties with Washington and revive the Allies' military exercises to protect South Korea's national security. The executives of a local rental car firm and a leading ride-hailing service have been indicted for operating without a license. The move comes amid fierce protests from taxi drivers who see such carpooling apps as illegal competition. Kim Jae-hee reports.
South Korea's rental van hailing services have long been taking fire from local taxi drivers who say the service Tata provides is illegal under South Korean law. And on Monday, Socar's chief executive Lee Jae-ung and the chief executive of Socar's rental car hailing service unit, Value Creators and Company, Park Jae-uk, were indicted on charges of illegally operating their businesses without the correct license.
According to Article 4, Paragraph 1 of the Passenger Transportation Service Act, anyone with a passenger transport business has to obtain a license from the Transport Minister. Article 34, Paragraph 3 also bans car rental business entities from using their commercial vehicles for paid passenger transport. These were the grounds for Monday's indictments.
The day after the indictment, taxi drivers in Seoul held a press conference and urged Tata to stop running its business immediately. Meanwhile, drivers of car-sharing service Tata say the ban could drag Korea behind in the global economy.
If you look at the cases of other countries, for instance the US or Southeast Asia, car-sharing services such as Uber are very commonly used. We're now entering the global era and the fourth industrial revolution, as well as the age of AI. I fear South Korea may fall behind if we continue to regulate these movements towards the sharing economy.
Tata is maintaining its statement that it has not broken any laws, based on a law that states rented vans with 11 to 15 seats can be offered with drivers. Attention now turns to the court, which is expected to focus on whether Tata should be considered a type of a rental car service within legal boundaries or an illegal taxi service. The court's verdict is not expected for some time, and it could take as long as 3 to 4 years if the case goes all the way to the Supreme Court. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
Starting tomorrow, people in South Korea will be able to manage multiple bank accounts through a single app. The Financial Services Commission says the country's banks are starting a test run of what's called the Open Banking System. It enables users to transfer money and check balances without having to open up several apps, and it offers lower commissions. It'll first be joined by 10 banks, including Nongyup, Shinhan and Kungmin, with 8 others to join later. The South Korean government has announced big new investments in Alzheimer's research over the next 9 years. The health ministry announced today that it will be investing about $170 million starting next year in early diagnosis, prevention and treatment techniques. The research also aims to develop new fundamental treatments to supplement existing ones, which can only relieve or slow down symptoms. The government had declared in 2017 that it will develop a nationwide system to support and manage Alzheimer's patients. Last year, there were about 750,000 patients, a number expected to rise to some 3 million by the year 2060. Wall Street overnight saw the S&P 500 hit a record high. That was apparently due to optimism that the US and China will reach a trade deal and that the Fed will cut rates this week. Our Hong Yu has the details.
The S&P rose more than 0.5% to close at 3,039, almost 4 points higher than the most recent record set in July. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was also up, closing less than 1% off its own all-time high, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq index rose a little over 1%. South Korea's benchmark Kospi also started strong, but investors took a wait-and-see approach in terms of a Fed rate cut, leaving the index flat at about 29.2. The U.S. gains come after President Trump told reporters on Monday that a significant part of the trade deal with China could be signed ahead of schedule. This, the Phase 1 agreement, he said, was reached essentially earlier this month in Washington. Trump said it will help farmers and, in his words, take care of a lot of the banking needs. The U.S. and China are widely believed to be looking to sign the deal next month in Chile on the sidelines of the APEC summit. And possibly to help make that happen, the U.S. Trade Representative announced Monday that it's considering another delay in the tariffs due to take effect this December. Those would affect Chinese goods worth around $34 billion. The agency will take comments on that proposition in November before making a final decision. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
K-pop sensation BTS are performing their final concert of their world tour in Seoul. The boy band's successful world tour is estimated to have raked in more than $170 million in revenue. Our Kan Young-woo has the story.
Tens of thousands of BTS fans from all over the world have gathered here at the Jamsil Olympic Stadium to witness the final concert of the Love Yourself, Speak Yourself World Tour.
The music just brings all of these people together because the message that they are spreading, like love yourself, it's just amazing if you ask me. And I think if you look around, all these people think the same way. And
I like BTS because they really helped me go through a really dark phase in my life, and I think someone said that you find BTS when you need them the most, and I think that's the case for me too. And
the last of BTS 3 concerts in Seoul marks the end of the group's extended Love Yourself World Tour. After seeing a massive success from the first tour last year, the 7-member boy band extended their global journey. That extension, dubbed Love Yourself, Speak Yourself, has generated over $170 million through ticket sales and BTS-related merchandise sales. Over the first tour and its extension, BTS performed in 13 countries, including the US, England, Japan, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia, dazzling over 2 million fans along the way. The group's total economic effect for South Korea has been calculated at $4.65 billion.
BTS' effect on production inducement is about 26 times the annual average sales of mid-sized Korean companies, and the value-adding effect is about 9 times that.
Experts say if you include the increased interest in the Korean language and other cultural influences that cannot easily be given a monetary value, the effect of BTS is even more pronounced. Kan Young-woo, Arirang News.
A highly prized piece of white porcelain from the Joseon Dynasty has been nominated for state recognition as a treasure of Korea's cultural heritage. The Cultural Heritage Administration announced today that it'll be added to the Registry of Treasures after a 30-day period of deliberation. The piece was made in the 15th or 16th century and depicts flowers and birds painted in blue. It's about 30 centimeters tall. The agency said the piece was chosen because it's relatively well preserved and has distinct characteristics of the Joseon Dynasty with less influence from the Chinese style. South Korea's largest annual forum on AI and software took place over the past 2 days in Seoul. Roughly 2,500 people attended Developers View, or DEVIEW, where developers from tech giants to local startups had the opportunity to showcase their latest technologies. Our Ji-young was there.
Visitors to DEVIEW 2019 in Seoul encountered new technology as soon as they arrived at the event. Instead of having to line up to check in, they simply got their faces scanned by a device that can recognize their face in just 1/10 of a second.
As this technology is able to recognize faces in 0.1 seconds, there's no need to stand in a long queue at these types of events.
A company called Ping Pong also unveiled an AI friend it has developed.
Unlike existing AIs like Siri or Assistant that are focused on carrying out tasks, we're developing an AI that can have personal chats with people and build intimate emotional relationships.
During a visit to the DEVIEW on Monday, President Moon stressed the importance of developing the nation as an AI powerhouse. In a bid to become a leading country in the artificial intelligence field and to further nurture the AI industry, President Moon vowed that his government will roll out a new strategy plan within this year. As well as upping the budget for AI and 5G, the government aims to create more AI specialists.
When we were starting to develop this technology, we needed more workers. It would be better if more specialists are available.
Although the government is supporting many AI projects, in order to apply for them, too much administrative work is needed. Developers tend to downgrade their goals when there are too many steps required to get the support they need. I hope the government can reduce paperwork and trust the startup firms. Also, I hope big firms can share their data sets so that startups can use that information to grow.
Naver Labs, which develops maps for driverless vehicles, recently shared some of their maps for free so that startup companies and researchers can utilize them. Ji-young, Arirang News.
And this just in, President Moon Jae-in's mother, Kang Han-ok, has passed away today at the age of 92. She had been suffering from a chronic illness and had been hospitalized in the port city of Busan. The president, shortly after ending his schedule in Suwon today, went to see his mother. This is the first time in South Korean history that a sitting president goes through bereavement while in office. The presidential office said that the president wishes to handle the passing as a private funeral, and we will have more updates on that in our later newscast. Earlier this year, South Korea became the first country in the world to launch a 5G mobile network for public use. Not only does the super-fast connection make your video stream faster, Korean mobile firms are using the network to improve productivity and quality of life for those in remote locations, such as farmers. Our Oh Soo-young files us this report.
Farmer Kim Soo-young has for decades toiled through the storms and droughts that have affected his crops. But he's about to start enjoying a slower pace of life. He can now control an unmanned tractor using his tablet PC and the super-fast 5G mobile network. LG Plus on Tuesday unveiled its 5G farming solution, testing an automated tractor across 6,600 square meters of land.
While the tractor works, I can take a break or tend to other matters, so I think the automated tractor would really improve work efficiency. It's also pricey to call a mechanic when the tractor isn't working, so I think the smart solution system can help cut costs.
It uses a real-time kinematic system, which uses normal GPS signals to achieve positional accuracy of 3 to 10 centimeters. Also, the farming solution runs real-time checkups of the tractor and provides step-by-step instructions on how to replace parts through 3D virtual reality features. The high-tech solution is expected to help Korean farmers who have struggled in recent years. According to government data, farmers experienced nearly 32 days of heat waves last year, a fourfold increase from 2014, drying up their produce and income. This also worsens the country's food security. Korea's self-sufficiency rate for grain stands at 23.8% compared to the world average of 102.5%. By 2021, LG aims to perfect its 5G farming solution to increase productivity as well as safety conditions for workers, incorporating augmented and virtual reality, robotics, and artificial intelligence.
Our smart solution aims to mitigate the lack of workers amid the decreasing farming population while increasing the quality of life for farmers. We also think it will help enhance the competitiveness of the agricultural machinery sector.
As the first country in the world to launch 5G, Korean IT firms aren't just providing super-fast internet. They're also aiming to use 5G to help elderly citizens, people with disabilities, and remote communities overcome their physical limitations. 오수영 아리랑 뉴스 고양.
South Korea and the United States seem to have narrowed their differences on how to share the cost of stationing American troops on the peninsula next year. An official familiar with last week's talks on the matter told reporters both sides agreed on some aspects of what the official called a win-win deal. This year's so-called Special Measures Agreement, which expires in December, required South Korea to pay almost $900 million. Next year, President Trump reportedly wants billions more. The number of Koreans traveling to Japan has fallen over the last 3 months amid the tensions between the two countries. Data by the Transport Ministry show the figure in the third quarter was down nearly 15% on year. The fall comes as South Koreans are boycotting Japan to protest against Tokyo's trade restrictions on Seoul. Korean travelers to other countries, mostly in Southeast Asia, increased 13% over the same period. A film festival in Japan has decided not to show a documentary about the country's wartime sexual enslavement of so-called comfort women. Shusenzo, the battleground of the comfort women issue, directed by Japanese-American director Miki Dezaki, was to be screened at the Kawasaki Shinyuri Film Festival just outside Tokyo. But the organizers said they had to cancel it, citing supposed safety and management risks because some people interviewed in the film had sued to stop the screening. That decision has been met with protests. A Japanese film company said it was withdrawing 2 of its movies from the festival, accusing the organizers of, quote, murdering freedom of expression. The government says it will give a 10% rebate on purchases of home appliances with the highest level of energy efficiency. From November to the end of the year, the incentive will be applied to 7 items, including air conditioners, refrigerators, and air purifiers that are purchased in that period. Air conditioners that have at least the 3rd highest energy efficiency rating will also be eligible, except for wall-mounted ones. Products need to be registered at rebate.energy.or.kr from November 6th to January 15th. The government expects to save 15,000 megawatt hours of energy, which is roughly what 4,300 households use in a year. It's now time to take a look at some of Arirang's digital media content.
And Onion News is back, taking a look at the top trending stories.
Hi everyone, I'm Minsun, a news reporter at Arirang TV, and here's today's Onion News. It's a great time of the year to hike in Korea. And when you go hiking, one thing that cannot be left out is to enjoy delicious food on top of the mountain. To make things easier for hikers, the Korea National Park Service has been providing meal box service at 21 national parks in South Korea. Hikers just need to place an order one day before through SNS and pick up the lunchbox at the entrance of the park and return it on the way down. Lunchboxes are made with the culinary specialties of each region and only cost between 7,000 to 10,000 won. It reduces the use of disposable products and is good for the environment.
국립공원에서 연간 발생되는 쓰레기는 약 1,100톤입니다. 그중 일회용품으로 발생되는 쓰레기가 22%를 차지하고 있습니다. 친환경 도시락 서비스를 통해 일회용 쓰레기 발생이 많이 줄어들 것으로 기대하고 있습니다.
National Park Service also offers the lunchbox service in English, so make sure to try one of these when you go hiking in Korea. Do you know a woman named Kim Ji-young, born in 1982? She's a main character of a million-seller novel titled Kim Ji-young, born 1982. It's a story about a typical Korean woman in her 30s trying to find a balance between her work and family and the gender discrimination she faces in Korean society. And this novel is made into a movie and recently hit theaters. Even before the movie premiered, it received split ratings from male and female audiences and became almost a gender battle. But the novel has been a sensational hit in East Asia and quickly became a bestseller. Many foreign readers said Kim Ji-young exists not only in Korea, but also in overseas, regardless of social and cultural background. One of the readers from these countries wrote, "Almost all women living in East Asia will see themselves in Kim Ji-young." Remember this Baby Shark song that was on the Billboard Hot 100 chart earlier this year? Baby Shark has taken over the US once again. This time it's at the Major League Baseball park for Washington Nationals. The team's outfielder Gerardo Parra started using the song Baby Shark as his walk-up song in June while he was stuck in a slump. Since then, both Parra and his team started to make good records, and the Nationals even made it to the World Series. Excited and happy fans are coming to games dressed as shark and do the shark dance in a synchronized fashion. For the Nationals fans, Baby Shark has become a symbol of victory and luck. That's it from This Sunny Today. Make sure to like this video and subscribe our channel. Bye!
Yellow dust blanketed the nation for the first time this season, with high levels of fine dust all day.
Yes, so it is very important to take necessary precautions. For more details, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Hi guys, now we saw fine dust concentration rose to 4 times the standard levels today. Now Seoul and some parts of the nation received their first fine dust advisory of the season. Now the southern regions have been looking worse as the yellow dust has been making its way towards southeasterly. Now the good news is that the air pollution levels are expected to go down, while air quality is expected to bounce back to optimal. Now, along with fresh air, sunny skies will dominate the nation tomorrow due to the high pressure front, now with similar daytime highs as today's. But do keep in mind that the morning temperatures have dropped to single-digit readings. Now, Seoul wakes up to 5 degrees Celsius tomorrow, while Busan and Jeju makes it into the teens. Now, going over to our highs for tomorrow, there is a big boost with Seoul reaching up to 18 degrees, Daegu at 19, while Busan and Jeju marks up to 20 degrees. Sunny spells will stay in the forecast this week here in the capital, with the daily temperature differences of at least 10 degrees Celsius. Now we'll leave you with weather conditions around the world.
That will do it for today's Arirang News Center. Thank you, as always, for watching.
Keep it tuned to Arirang for news in depth coming up next.